Welcome everyone to Health Coach TV. I'm your host, Dr. Shaunna Menard, and I am super excited for this episode. This is a very special one. We have a powerhouse talent. I'll just acknowledge you, Mary Ann, for being here, and then I'll get into a proper introduction. But thanks for being here with us, Mary Ann.
Oh, super excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, let me dive right into this. Before I even preface this, if you have food intolerances or leaky gut, or if you have some weird rashes or some symptoms, digestive symptoms, and you don't know what's going on, you definitely want to tune in. And for all of you who have a gut, which is all of you, definitely grab a pen and you're going to want to have a listen. So our special guest today is Mary Ann Camarillo. She is a national board certified health and wellness coach with advanced training in both gut and hormone health. She has appeared in the magazine Simply Gluten Free. She's published in that magazine. She is also the author of the book Happy Me, I'm Symptom Free. She has been teaching for over 20 years as a teacher and was suffering for years and years with food intolerances and painful skin rashes and issues. And she'll talk to us about that. Really next level. And she was determined to figure out how to fix that. Really, she couldn't really continue on much further. And she had gone and sought out help from everyone. And ultimately, she did fix it. And so now Mary Ann is passionate about helping others, and you do the same. That's why she's agreed here to do this interview with us. She lives in beautiful Folsom, California with her husband, Al, and she is the CEO and founder of Eat with Ease Coaching. Welcome, Mary Ann.
Oh, thank you. I'm really just delighted to be here today.
I know this is a subject that is like near and dear to your heart, and it's what you like to talk about all day, every day. What is it that you do now?
So I help women with food intolerances overcome painful skin and debilitating digestive issues. So ultimately they can banish the bloat, feel lighter and leaner, and eat with ease.
Awesome. So what was it that had you get into this line of work? Like, tell us about your story, because it's a powerful one and people are going to want to hear this.
Yes. So for years, since I was a young child, I'd suffered from stomach aches. And as I got older, I began having a lot of digestive issues, a lot of bloating and gas and repeated bouts of diarrhea and constipation, what just got worse over time. It just seemed like there was no end. And I just felt like that was kind of just my normal. I didn't think anything of it until one day, completely out of the blue, I started having these weird, mysterious rashes, swollen, red, itchy rashes on all different parts of my body. And those also became worse over time. So I couldn't ignore them, nor any of these symptoms anymore. And every year I kept feeling sicker and more fatigued. And if you go to the doctor, oftentimes they'll tell you, oh, you're just getting older, especially as you get into your 40s. And I thought, well, this can't be just getting older. So after undergoing some additional testing from my allergist, I found myself taking daily antihistamines and occasional rounds of steroids. And while they did help on some level, they really weren't the cure I was looking for. And so I started on my own, kind of experimenting with foods, eliminating some foods that I thought might be suspect, adding in new foods. And I did make some progress during doing that, but the problem is it wasn't long-lived. I'd be okay for a little while, and then I'd have other flares come up, reactions, and then I'd be back where I was started from it. And so as time went by, my rashes just got worse and worse, and I couldn't take it anymore. At one point, I finally said, okay, I need to get back into the doctor. I've been patient with this long enough. I went in and I asked her to do some skin testing, and sadly, on the day of the testing, both my arms were swollen to twice their normal size. They were red and feverish and itchy, and I just was desperate to get some answers because I really didn't know what else to do. I've tried everything I could think to try. And then another shock came to me. The test results literally shocked me to my core because I reacted to every single food, which I didn't even think was a possibility. And the test results indicated that I was highly allergic to a lot of foods that I've been eating regularly since childhood. So I couldn't understand even potatoes, which I thought were a fairly harmful food. And so as I left the allergist that day, she really tried to reassure me, but honestly, I just was really uneasy. I knew that there was something really big going on that had been brewing for some time that I'd been ignoring. And I couldn't deal with it anymore. I didn't know what to do. But this was my life. This was my new normal. I was busy working as a full-time teacher, raising my 3 children, doing what I could to manage my symptoms, but all the while just kind of feeling more anxious and frustrated and hopeless, feeling that my body was really betraying me and wondering if I'd really ever be able to enjoy life again. Because I was a big foodie, like this really changed my life. Thankfully, a short time later, though, I learned about leaky gut and its association with food allergies and intolerances. And honestly, this was a pivotal moment in my life because it really gave me hope that I could overcome what was happening, my food allergies and the intolerances that I didn't even know what they were, let alone which ones I had. And eventually, though, I have to say, there's light at the end of the tunnel, because after years and years, a decade actually, of trial and error and countless expense on doctors and medications and supplements, I finally was able to heal my gut and overcome the food allergies and intolerances and the painful skin and debilitating digestive issues that really had plagued me almost my entire life.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I want to unpack some of this stuff that you just said, because there was a lot. And I'm thinking there's other people out there who have been frustrated going from doctor to doctor and test to test and thinking they're crazy, and yet they cannot deny what's happening. I mean, look, this can't be normal, but really left suffering and in pain, with really not a lot of hope as to what to do. They are going through, they're right in the middle of that expensive testing and going to spending all these monies on these medications and supplements and doctors and just, running around trying to find a solution. So it's really great to see you on the other end of this. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't need to be that hard of a journey, but just knowing a few things. And would you say in the long run, the solution is kind of simpler than it needed to be, than the pain that it needed to be, or no?
Absolutely. But for me, I really didn't know which direction to go. I really felt lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't imagine having so here's the thing, allergic, okay, just avoid food. But when you're allergic to everything, we have to eat. So what are you going to do? And I can imagine you must have been feeling like you were caught between a rock and a hard place. So, okay. So that's an incredible story. And I think the reason you had such an extreme example is because it allowed you to do the work that you're doing now. Like if it wasn't so bad, maybe you would have put up with the bloating or constipation, any one of those things. Maybe you would have just grumbled along. Maybe some people here are grumbling along, but this really forced you to find a solution, which thankfully you did. Tell us more about this. What is leaky gut? How did you heal your gut? Tell everyone here a little bit more about that.
Okay, so leaky gut, it involves our small intestine. So our small intestines have a really thin barrier between our bloodstream and the actual tube where our food goes through. And so what happens with leaky gut is, and I'm going to just kind of go quick. So it starts out with very tight junctions, and it's okay that little things can escape. Like think of a basket that's very tightly woven. But unfortunately, when you get leaky gut, the openings start to get a little too open. And so instead of just the nutrients flowing out into your bloodstream that you're wanting and needing, then you have like proteins and toxins that are leaking through, that are coming from the outside world, that aren't meant to be in your bloodstream. And then of course your body goes on high alert. It increases inflammation, and there's a whole cascade of things that start to happen. But one of the things that leaky gut is known for is causing food allergies and intolerances, because your body starts to see those proteins from foods as foreign substances that they need to attack.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is really good. And the thing is, now people have heard of leaky gut. My sons kind of laugh at the word like leaky gut. They have a visual of like that, so it's even filtered down into like, a younger generation has like heard the word now. When you went through this, it wasn't, I'm going to say it wasn't as commonplace and common knowledge. So now I think there's documentaries and different things about it, but still I think there's a good segment. I'm going to still say the majority of the population does not really have a good understanding of what it is. So it's still new, but there's more of that. But I think what's more profound is that, you had done this before there were really those answers out there, and more people who are getting on the other side of it can come back, shine the light and say, hey, this is it. But so that's kind of what it is. And thank you for giving us that in a nice, succinct nutshell. That was really helpful for people to give us that answer really quickly. And then how was it? What were some of the things that you learned about that in your own unique personal journey? Because there's what people say to do, but then I always go by what actually worked. And what would you say were some of the things that you discovered as you actually healed yourself, not just the leaky gut, but healed yourself to actually get better? Like, we're not trying to heal a name. We're trying to restore our wellness is what we're really trying to do. So what were some things that were like aha moments or sort of missing links or things like that?
Well, first of all, for everybody who's trying to do any type of healing or come to a better level of health, you have to stop and really recognize where you're at. And for me, I had to recognize that the weird things that were happening, mysterious though they were to me, the stomach aches and the digestive issues and the rashes, they weren't normal. We can normalize things so easily, like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that's just me. I always have stomach issues or whatever, but it's not normal. And if those are happening to you, you have to recognize that first. And then just not ignore them anymore. Really tune in, listen to your body, and take responsibility for your health. And you can't just leave it in the hands of the doctors. The doctors are doing the best job they know how, but you know yourself better than anybody. And so some key things that I discovered though for myself was that food alone was not the answer. I thought it was, and I was really focused in that direction, but that wasn't it. It did involve healing my gut. When I started to understand really what leaky gut was doing to my body, and realizing that my stress was contributing to it, the processed foods that I was eating that had chemical additives, in it, pesticides and herbicides that were on the food I was eating every day that I thought was healthy. I had to start to really look at all of those things and make some changes and really focus on the fundamentals. And the fundamentals for me were not just food, but like I mentioned, stress obviously was important too. Breathing, believe it or not, there's a lot of us, we get stressed and we breathe shallowly, things like that. So breathing was key, movement was key. All those kind of things, and sleep. And a lot of us, we kind of poo-poo the sleep thing. It's not that important, but it certainly is.
Yeah, it's where we regenerate. So is getting on the other side of this ultimately and restoring your wellness so that you can live your life again, is that what had you decide to become a health coach?
Absolutely. Because none of this was easy. When I look back, it sounds like it was so easy, but everything's always easier said than done. I had to implement a large number of lifestyle changes to support my healing. And I have to confess, it was not easy. It was challenging on the best of days. And so I felt alone, misunderstood, just at times hopeless, because I felt like I was on this all by myself. Like nobody around me really understood what I was going through. And it would have been so much easier if I would have had a health coach by my side to guide me and support me as I was going through this.
Yeah. And I mean, because I know that even all of us have probably been in the situation where we've learned that maybe we can't eat something,
Mm.
and yet somebody else can eat the same thing. And then they're like, well, why are you, that's all in your head, or why can't you, just, you can eat it, there's nothing wrong with this. And so what works for one person is not necessarily, or maybe you're eating it, maybe you don't know that you can't, and they're eating it and they're fine, and you're eating it, so you figure you should be fine. But you're not. And so it can hide, some of those missing links can really hide in there as you try to just figure it out. And it's very much a unique journey. And even just to navigate this, because a lot of people wouldn't necessarily have some of these things cross their mind. They would think we'll dive in deeper. I know that you have lots more you want to teach everybody, but as far as what are some of the factors, and that it's not just food, so that there's some other things. But before we go, we'll get to that. But I can see how being able to guide someone, because if you have, look, if you're allergic to everything and you eliminate your gluten and your dairy and your sugar, and you still have symptoms. Why? Because you're allergic to everything. So that's not helpful for you. I mean, it's going to feel like, well, I tried that and that didn't help. That didn't work. And it's not like what you did wasn't helpful. It's just wasn't enough, that there was still missing things. And if you're still missing a few pieces, it's like a combination of a lock. You can have, if there's a 3-number combination for the lock and you have 2 of them, and the third one, you have the number, but it's in the reverse order, doesn't matter. You still can't unlock it. And so, it's important to have all of the things and in that right order. Well, tell people how do you work with clients? Like, what does that look like? How did that work if somebody's got like digestive issues or food intolerances, or maybe they don't even know that, but like, tell us a little bit about how you work with people.
Okay. Well, first of all, I generally work with clients who are busy women professionals, who have digestive issues, who may or may not know they have food intolerances. A lot of them don't when we start working together, who are looking to, and honestly, like, I didn't realize so many women were experiencing bloat, but a lot of them are looking to banish the bloat and, to lose weight, feel lighter, leaner, and just more confidently navigate foods choices for themselves. So I kind of walked them through step by step from, the painful digestive issues to soothe their gut. So then they can start to, have relief from their symptoms, acid reflux, gas and bloating, more normal bowel movements is often a nice thing to have as well. And eat with ease in the process. And the way we do this is I work with them really closely, primarily virtually. So literally anyone, anywhere can do this. And there's plenty of accountability and support. And I basically take them by the hand and offer them all the guidance they need to get them on the other side of this. And that's really the important thing. And that we really get results by doing that.
Yeah. It's so powerful. That work that you do is so powerful. I'm thinking, as you're mentioning at the beginning, how some women don't even know they have food intolerances, but you help them uncover that. And I'm thinking of all of these relatives, primarily female relatives that I have, who would have bloating, and mainly bloating, and maybe they would have a few little aches and pains in their joints or something, or maybe they'd have maybe a little lack of energy, but this bloatedness. Yeah. And because all their like sisters and aunts and grandmothers and relatives had it, it became normal. And it's just kind of the way we are. And it's just the way things are as you get older, but not necessarily so. And I know that just because you're getting older does not mean you have to deteriorate. And I suspect a lot of them had food intolerances and leaky gut and were having symptoms, but because everybody else was living in a fog, they thought it was normal. Everybody else has arthritis. Everybody else has belly fat and bloating. Everybody else has to wear bigger shirts and pants, that they think that that's normal. Everybody else has stubborn weight that they can't lose, and they just think that it's normal. And it's really like, is it normal to have pain? Is it normal to have rashes? Is it normal to have this weight that won't go away? And just, my mom used to tell me, just because everyone else is doing it doesn't make it right. And I think that now, because you had an extreme case, even though they were saying, hey, it's pretty obvious, arms swollen twice the size, not in red, not normal and painful. That, it doesn't really matter. It's not normal. But I think for a lot of people who have maybe not that extreme, they pass it off as normal, and they wonder why things aren't improving for them. So what would you say is like the biggest myth when it comes to gut health?
So I think the biggest myth when it comes to gut health is that food is the only factor that influences gut health. Of course, our gut is made to process food, but in reality, there are a combination of factors, I would say, that influence. Food is definitely primary for sure, but stress is huge. Environmental toxins, researchers are finding more and more that they are also impacting our gut health. Our physical activity, believe it or not, and even our negative thoughts and emotions that we have. Researchers are finding that those also have an impact on our gut microbiome, or the good and bad bacteria in our gut, that are hopefully in balance.
Yeah. And so, like, what are give me some examples of, you mentioned physical activity there, and how that impacts. So I think most of us kind of get, maybe we don't, I don't think we get to the extent that it really matters how stress impacts our gut health. But it's not a huge leap for most people.
Right.
Once you say stress, and they're like, oh yeah, like I get nervous for a talk, before a test, and you feel upset stomach, you're like, oh yeah, my stress is affecting my gut.
Yeah.
I can understand why that would be impacting things. But talk a little bit about exercise and physical activity, because that talk a little bit about that one and how that can actually negatively impact, because that's kind of ironic. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we all think exercise is good, and it is, and it's good for reducing our stress and everything. But sometimes, and I was guilty of this, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes we overdo it. We get a little too intense with our exercise. And a prime example for me is I was super excited. There was a new spin class in town, and I went to the new spin class and couldn't wait to do it. And I really just charged through that, pushed my way through, past all my boundaries. And by the end of the class, both my wrists, I had like rashes occurring on my wrists, and it had nothing to do with food. I wasn't doing any food differently. So I knew it wasn't that. But it was the actual physical stress, not just the emotional stress, but physical stress on our body that sometimes we put on it through additional physical activity that maybe is too much for us.
Right. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that that exercise increases free radical damage. It does. And we eat antioxidants to combat the free radicals. And so now exercise is good, gets the blood moving, gets the blood pumping, get the oxygens delivered, nutrients delivered, gets the toxins, removed. But there is that balance. And a lot of us I often joke, I usually know my limit after I've crossed it. Usually after I've passed my limit, I'm like, oh, there it was. And I think a lot of people are like that. But I think this is part of the frustrating aspect as people try to figure this out on their own, because maybe they had been giving up the gluten, giving up the this, or whatever the foods were that they think that that's not necessary. It's just a common thing that people are intolerant to, but they're giving up all of these things, and then it's not getting better. And I guess that is back to your initial point. It's not, food alone is not the only factor. And so kind of keeping everything in balance. And I think that's why you have this holistic approach. It really has to take in that whole person, body, mind, and spirit, I guess, taking all of that into account when you're helping somebody heal and get on the other side of this.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Talk a little. I know you're a wealth of information here. The teacher in you comes out all the time. You taught for 20 years. So you're very good at what you do, and you have a great way of explaining it. Feel free to share anything that you want. There's a lot of people who are interested in gut health, and they can spend a long time reading lots of books and doing lots of research. But you have such a great way of just cutting right to it and saying it really succinctly. Anything else that you want to teach them or tell them about gut health and why it's important?
Yes. So, most of us understand that our gut bacteria, they help us digest our food. They process and absorb nutrients. But what we may not all know is they also create vitamins for us, like vitamins B12 and vitamin K that are used by our body. But they even have another important job. They play a huge role in hormone and immunity. So hormone regulation, there's a connection with the thyroid that not a lot of people know about. So hormone regulation is a big thing the gut is involved in, immunity. And in fact, 70% of our immunity resides in our gut. And not only that though, but the gut and the brain are also connected. And we want to be sharp into our 90s. So definitely yet another reason where we want to keep our gut healthy.
Yeah, awesome. What are a couple of tips if you guys haven't been grabbing a pen yet and writing some of these things down, you're missing out. She's dropping some gems. You'll have to come back and watch it, but grab a pen if you haven't already. Give them a few more, maybe practical tips that they can do. They're sitting there and they're like, okay, well, this is really good. Maybe I'll reach out to Mary Ann or, read something that she has, or one of the articles that you've been featured in, something like that. Mm-hmm. But what is something that they could sort of start implementing now that they could to start improving their gut health or helping them get on the other side of things?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it was hard. I came up with 2 ideas for them today, although there's countless more we could talk about. The first one, I think, would be drink bone broth. Mm-hmm. And bone broth, many people have heard of it today. You can buy it commercially. You can make it yourself. I personally like to do that. And then you can put whatever you want in it. But it's rich in minerals and calcium that helps build and strengthen your bones. It has lots of amino acids and vitamins and essential fatty acids. But really, the most important thing about bone broth is it contains gelatin, which has been shown to protect and heal the mucosal lining, because there is a kind of a mucousy lining in our gut, and it heals that lining in the digestive tract. And an amino acid that's found in gelatin and often is sold as a supplement, by the way, but naturally occurs in gelatin, is glutamine. And glutamine helps to maintain the function of those tight junctions, the intestinal wall that I talked about earlier, and has even been shown in research to prevent and even heal leaky gut in some cases. Awesome. Another great tip I would say is eat more leafy greens. And if you have to, put them in a smoothie. That's what I do. Easiest thing to do. Sometimes we don't all think they taste good. And I'm talking things like kale and spinach and Swiss chard. But they're like any vegetable and fruit. They're high in antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and nutrients and fiber. But they also help detoxify the body. And that's super important. The liver, their primary job of the liver is to help detoxify the body, but the liver sometimes gets overloaded, and it has a big job to do. And actually, if it's not working at its optimal best, digestion is also going to be compromised. So I know people don't usually associate the liver with digestion, but it does have something to do with it as well.
Yeah, huge. Medical people do know that there's a role there, but yeah, the average person may not know that. Right. Something I often, and you've not said anything controversial or that we need to worry about. I will say a lot of times what I will share in these interviews, which should be kind of self-evident, is I always say, although I am a doctor, I'm not your doctor. So I always recommend that you contact your own healthcare provider about what's right for you. And nothing that we share is meant to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. So we just put that in as a little disclaimer. Sometimes that's on the side, but depending on how you're seeing that. But all of this advice is just great, healthy advice for everybody. And what you're really telling people is listen to your own body, and everybody is unique. And if you take care of your gut, that it's going to take care of you. But then there's more to it than just food. There's more to it than just the gut. And it's all this interplay and holistic. And so everything in your whole body is connected. We can't separate out one part from another, which explains why the skin is affected by something that you're eating, and by the stress and by the exercise. It all works together. So when you are working with people on their gut health and improving their food intolerances and things, what are some of the other like spin-off benefits that you've seen, or some of the benefits that you've seen in working with your clients?
Well, in addition to the decreased bloating and the more normal bowel movements, which, woohoo, we're all looking for that.
Yes.
They're finding that they're losing weight, and they feel lighter and leaner, and they're able to have more energy and really just have better relationships, probably because of the better energy, I would imagine. Less anxiety. That was kind of an unexpected spin-off benefit, and they're generally feeling more empowered, to make changes.
Yeah. You had shared with me not too long ago about a recent client that you had that really demonstrated. I mean, she I can't remember why she hired you initially. Maybe it was just for food intolerances, but the things that she was amazed about. It took stuff that she was frustrated with for like her whole life or for a long time, and reversed it, or just was a big aha moment. Share with us, that. I don't know if you know the client I'm talking about.
Yes, actually I do. So yeah, she was a recent client, and she came to me because she had a lot of debilitating bathroom attacks, is what she called them. She called them her bathroom attacks, and they were happening quite frequently every week. And she just didn't want to be chained to the bathroom anymore. And when we started working together, she didn't realize she had food intolerances, but she started to kind of pick up on some things, some clues her body was telling her during our work together. So she was able to get past some of that. But interestingly, she had suffered from anxiety her entire life, and her anxiety decreased substantially. I mean, it was amazing. Like, that was not a benefit either one of us were looking for. And not only that though, but she, more easily, as she told me, more easily and quickly than she ever thought, lost weight. She wasn't jumping on, she didn't even own a scale, but she knew she lost weight because her dress size went down, her pant size went down. So that was a nice added benefit. At least I thought it was, I'm sure she had liked it too. And she even told me, she says, I feel so much more empowered after working with you, learning how I can make these changes in my life.
Yeah, that is, I mean, how awesome to have as a lovely side effect, weight loss that you weren't even trying to go after, and to say, more, easier than I ever thought was possible. She wasn't even trying. And that's the thing, when you heal your body and have it working the way it was supposed to work, rather than like having it grumble along inefficiently. Once you have this efficient machine that's working the way it was meant to work, wow, everything kind of comes back into balance, including your weight. And so much better. And your mood, and food is mood, and your gut health is, and your hormones and is all tied into that. And so super powerful for her to notice that. So it's not just a food intolerance, it's really their entire life. And some people have been struggling with this for years, and seriously, significantly struggling with this. So, well, this has been absolutely Awesome, Mary Ann. I hope you've been enjoying this. Mary Ann's a wealth of information. We barely scratched the surface on what she knows and has to offer and how she helps people. If people are looking to connect with you, if they want to find out more, if they want a copy of your book, or if they have questions for you, how can they reach out to you?
Well, the easiest way is to go to my eatwitheasecoaching.com website. And I would love to chat with them one-on-one to kind of get a feel for where they're at, what challenges are keeping them stuck. So we can start to answer some of those questions for them. And also they're more than welcome to join my free Facebook group, the Eat with Ease community. I share some tips and some health information there, as well as recipes to kind of help people stick to, their healthy way of eating.
Awesome. Yeah, you have lots of great free tools there. So Eat with Ease community on Facebook, you're welcome to join there. And if you go to Eat with Ease Coaching, that's EATWITHEASECOACHING.com, eatwitheasecoaching.com, and there's a way to get your book, and you got to Eat with These starter kit that they can have for free, and there's a way to connect and chat with you. I know that being someone who struggled so severely and so significantly with poor gut health, not even knowing you had poor gut health because it was coming up mainly, well, in your digestion, but in your skin and such, and that you just have a soft spot for those who are going through some of that, and you're happy to hop on a call with them, because everybody's unique. It's I know that you've done your best to give some kind of generic answers, but not everybody's allergic to everything, and not everybody has to eliminate any one particular food forever necessarily either. I know that you've said that before too, but in order to heal it up so that we can resume eating some of the foods that we really do like, we just have to repair it first. It's kind of like if you break your leg, let's put a cast on it, let's heal it up, let's let the body heal it up first before we go for the run. Then we can go for the run again. And well, it was an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad that you were able to come. I understand why you have been featured in Simply Gluten Free Magazine and have written your book. You're a wealth of information, and your teaching background, I believe, has prepared you perfectly for the work that you do now with such heart and grace. So yes, thank you so much for being here, Mary Ann.
Yes. And thank you, Dr. Shaunna, for having me. And I'm so glad I could be here to shed some more light on this really important topic for people.
It is. No need to struggle. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to join us on the next episode of Health Coach TV. Be good for you.